Hello everyone. As we transition from our focus on Microsoft Word to Microsoft Excel, I want you to know that I do understand that a lot of people have not used this program before or have only used it in a very basic way. And I've been teaching it long enough that I know that it is a program that does intimidate some people. But I want you to know that with some practice and some experimentation, it's something that you can get better at. And if we start a little bit slowly and then kind of gradually increase the complexity of the formats and the features that we're using this for, you can definitely get better. And the Unit 5 assignment is a great place to start. So let's take a look at that. As always, I'm going to start within my Blackboard shell, and I'm going to go to Unit 5 where our assignment is located and scroll down to the Unit 5 assignments. From here, I'm going to open up our step-by-step guide, and I'm going to open up the rubric. Once again, the rubric is a chart that basically shows you all of the things within this criteria column that are being asked of you, and then all of the tiers for whether or not they were met and to what degree they were met. So this is telling you what exactly we're grading you on and how your efforts here translate into points. It's important to read this both before and after you work on your assignment in order to make sure that you're hitting all the steps. Within our assignment guide, once again, we do have a step-by-step guide that is going to walk you through exactly what is expected within this assignment. So we're going to have descriptions of what those steps are, such as opening a new workbook in Excel. And we're going to have screenshots that show you what your work should look like up until this current point. You can see as we scroll down, our screenshots are getting a little bit more complete and getting all of these steps added. So as long as you are paying attention to these steps, you will succeed within this assignment. So let me scroll up to the top and we'll take a look at what our first step is, which is to open a new workbook in Excel. With that, I'm going to move our instructions over to this screen here, and I'm going to open up an Excel workbook on this screen here. So this is a plain workbook, and as we can see, as I scroll my mouse through here, it looks like a little white cross with a shadow. And that is our selector, and we can click on all of these cells in order to select all of them. I can select one cell. I can select a range of cells. When I select a range of cells, it's going to work in a rectangular pattern. And as I select all these different cells, as right now you can see that I'm in column A, row 1, and I have a name box just up above the A column that says A1. As I click on different cells, that name box is going to change and it's going to tell you what cell you're actually in. So it's kind of like an address for where you are within your workbook. Right now, you can see that I'm in column H, row 8, and that aligns with our little light gray shadow here and light gray shadow here and our little green highlighted box here, which lets us know that this is where we currently are. I'm going to put that on A1 because we have already finished our first step by opening that workbook, and we are well on our way to step number 2, which is simply to write the word month in all caps in cell A1. So I can do that by selecting cell A1, and I can just start writing. I can click off of it, or I can double click within the cell to write, and I can press the enter key, and that will bring us down to the next line. I can also select a cell and press tab, and that will bring us over to the next column. Step 3 is to write the words total spent on coffee, because that's what we're going to be tracking, is how much money we have spent on coffee each month. And I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to double click in cell B1, and I'm going to paste the content into there. So I can actually see that I can paste my content in here as well as write it. And now I have what is called my header row, because this is the information that we are going to track. So with the header being complete, we're going to move to step 4, which is to basically in between cells A2 and A13, which, sorry about that, which is this range here. We're going to end up filling this from January to December. So I'm going to start writing January and press enter, and then go to February and press enter, and I could continue writing manually all of these months, or I could let Excel do some of this work for me, because as of right now we have January and February, and Excel has already started to see a pattern here. So I can select January and February. I can select this entire range of cells, and as I put my mouse or my cursor along the outside border of this range of cells, I see a cross with arrows on all 4 sides, and that means that I can click and drag that. So all 4 arrows means that you're going to move that range of cells to another area. On the very bottom corner of this range of cells is a little tiny green square, and that's called your fill handle. If I put my cursor right over the fill handle, and it's a little bit difficult at times because it is so small, if I put my cursor right over that fill handle, I see a little cross with no arrows on it. That means that I can actually click on that and then drag it down, and it's automatically going to fill information until I stop scrolling. So because we saw that we have January and February already selected, Excel already saw the pattern and has basically filled in the rest of this content according to that pattern. Let me show you that one more time, because that seems to be an area that people really enjoy, but sometimes struggle to get, because it's often difficult to get onto this fill handle. So once again, if you think that you're on the fill handle and you do not see the cross without arrows, that means that you're not on the fill handle. And if you try to scroll down, you're going to move it instead. So no arrows means that you are on the fill handle. And now we can scroll down from January to February, and we want to go all the way to December, and we can see a little pop-up letting us know what our last cell is going to contain. Now we have a fully auto-filled row, a column rather, of January to December. From here, we're going to enter the amount of money that we spent on coffee each month, and all of these values are listed within step 5 of your assignment instructions, and they all do have a $ in front of them. However, we don't actually have to place the $, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to just focus on adding the values themselves. So let me get started on that. We have 283.43. We have 94.55, 104.11, 125.98, 145.32, 175.32, 189.34, 155.64, 171.34, 114.21, 133.34, and 195.43. So now I have all of my totals that we spent on coffee, and we are just in a general format here. Within the number command group right up here towards the center of your taskbar, you're going to see the word general, and that basically means that we are in a general number format. There's 2 ways to add $signs to that. The first way is to actually just click on this $, which as I hover over it, you're going to see is an accounting format. And that's going to automatically format our cells according to an accounting format, which adds the $ automatically. The other way to do that is to click the little drop down here and I could select currency as well. You'll notice that the dollar signs shift over directly to the right next to the number itself. I can actually click on these columns right here. If I put my cursor right between the two columns, I can expand the width of that, and that's something that we'll talk about in just a couple minutes. But I want to show you here that if I use a currency format, my dollar signs are right next to my numbers. And if I were to use an accounting format, my dollar signs are aligned towards the left-hand side of my cell, and my values are aligned towards the right-hand side of my cell. The only other difference between the accounting and the currency format is how the cell handles negative numbers. So for the purpose of this assignment, either one of those formats is acceptable. You can be in an accounting format or you can be in a currency format. Either one of them is fine. I'm just going to stay in a currency format. And then I'm going to just move this cell back over because we're going to talk about cell width here in a minute or two. Our next step here is to figure out how much money we spent on coffee for the entire year. And we can do that by using a very simple formula called the Autosum. In order to do that, all I need to do is select the values themselves. I do not want to include the heading row here. So I'm going to start at cell B2 and select down to cell B13. These are all of our values. And then up in our editing command group, you see a little Greek letter E, and it says the word Autosum next to it. If I were to click on Autosum, that is automatically going to add a formula that adds up all of these cells and puts the answer here. Right now, we have a bunch of hashtags in there because the cell is not wide enough to show the current value. But as we change the format, it's going to allow us to see the full number. So with that, our next step is to auto-fit our column width. And that's a really cool function that I like to use continuously because I really don't like when, number one, I see hashtags instead of numbers. If I were to put my cursor over it, we can see that the content is actually $1,888.01, but the only thing that we see are hashtags because, again, the column isn't wide enough to show that value. And the other thing is that we can see in the months of September, November, and kind of December here, and definitely within the total spent on coffee, the amount of text that we have exceeds the width of the column, so some of our information is going to be cut off. So I can select rows by clicking on one row. I can select a range, columns. I keep on getting those two mixed up. I can select one column rather by clicking on the column letter. And I can select a range of columns by clicking on one letter and then holding my mouse down and then sliding my mouse all the way across. So I can see that this entire range is selected, and I can do the same thing with rows here as well. In order to auto-fit the column width, what we want to do is select the columns that actually have content in them, which is A and B for us. Another cool feature that we have is this little space to the left of column A and just above the row 1. If I were to click on that, that is going to highlight my entire spreadsheet. For this step, either one of those is appropriate. From here, within my cells command group, we can see that there's a drop-down arrow right under the word format, and I can go to auto-fit column width. And that is automatically going to format the width of my column according to the cell with the most amount of text within it. So total spent on coffee obviously is our largest amount of text, our largest amount of content, and it has automatically formatted the width of the cell to accommodate that. And now we can see here that we have our formula rather, and we have our answer of $1,888.01. And as we look at our assignment guide, just under step 8 for that screenshot, we can see that 1888.01 is the amount that we're supposed to have. If I change any of these values here, let's just say I change this to 523.98. It's going to change the answer within my formula, because this content right here is not actually a number, it is a formula, and it actually shows the contents here where the contents equals the sum of B2 through B13. So let me change that back to 1888.01, and we can see here, because I wrote a number in there, our contents is the number 283.43, but here again our contents is the formula adding up all of these cells. And once we fit our column width, the last thing that we're going to do is insert a chart. And we are going to, let me just take a look at the assignment instructions here real quick. We are going to insert a chart, and to do that, we're going to select our range of data, not including our total. And I'll show you why in a couple minutes, but we want to make sure that we select both our heading and our values. We do not want to select just the values. We don't want to select the total, which is what it would look like here. And the reason why is because this would completely skew our data, and I'll show you what that looks like shortly. So we want to select from A1 down to B13, and we're going to select everything except our total. Then we're going to go to the Insert tab, and a couple of the mistakes that I commonly see are that people add a pivot table instead of adding a chart, or people add the wrong type of chart. So we're going to click on Recommended Charts, and we're going to pick the first one here, which is a line chart. All we have to do is make sure that we have the right one selected and press OK, and it's automatically going to put a chart here for you. It's going to basically drop it wherever it drops it, and that's fine. You don't have to worry about moving it. You can move it by basically just clicking within the chart somewhere and moving it around. And what you're going to see is that it automatically formats everything for you, and this is where it's important to have these heading rows selected, because that is what gives us our chart title. It's automatically going to give us our scale. It's automatically going to format our months. Let me show you what happens if you were to select the total. And this is another common mistake that I see. And I'm just going to insert another chart here for you to see. When I select the total, it is comparing all of these different individual inputs against the total that they contribute to. So we can see that we have a very skewed chart here. If you do that and you want to delete your chart, you simply need to select it and click your delete key. And the last thing I will show you is that if you were to select everything using just your months and your values, if you were to exclude your heading rows here and insert your chart, you will end up with a chart that has the right trend line, has the right regression line, and it does have your values on your X and Y axis, but it does not have a chart title. You can correct that by either deleting it and reselecting your chart with the headings on there, or you could actually click, let me show you one time here all the way through, click one time on your chart, and then click one time over your chart title, and that's going to select the individual piece of the chart, the individual component of the chart. I can double click, and I could write it in if I wanted to. and that way it is properly formatted. But once again, if you do not select your heading rows, you're going to end up with a chart that just says chart title instead of actually having a title for your chart. So I'm going to delete that. And from here, it looks like we have completed this assignment. So I need to make sure that I'm saving my work. I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to save it as, and I'm going to go to my desktop because this is where I have kept my post-university folder that I've been building on with each assignment. I'm going to open that folder, open CIS110, and look, it says that no items match your search. And that is because we do have some items within this folder already, but this is only going to show you similar file types. So because I have no other Excel documents in here, it looks like it's empty even though it's not. But I know that I always name my assignments and my files the same way, which is by using the course number, CIS110, the unit number, which is Unit 5, and a descriptor. So I have CIS 110 Unit 5 assignment, and I can press save. And now I can see that my auto save is enabled, and it's going to save my work as I continue. And I'm going to press X. And I can look at my post-university folder here, open up CIS 110, and see that my CIS 110 Unit 5 assignment is here, and all my other files are here as well. For those of you who are using the web version of Excel, let me just open up this web version here. It is going to look a little bit different for you. Your Autosum feature has the little Autosum logo, but it does not actually say Autosum. If you hover over it, you will see Autosum there. And you can basically click on that the same way that we did in the desktop version. Hovering over all these commands does tell you what they do. One of the big differences here is that the format one, which is where you can find your format, your auto fit column width, that one is right here. So if you hover over it, you can see format, click the drop down arrow, and you can see your options, and that's where you can select on auto fit column width. One of the other differences is that we can click on the insert tab. And from here, we're going to have a different view of what it looks like for recommended charts. But we can click on recommended charts here, and we don't actually have any data here. But we have a different layout, which is where our first option is a bar chart, and the second one is a line chart. You want to make sure that you are selecting the line chart. Another thing that we can do is when we click on the Home tab, and we can see that we do have a different taskbar here. If we click on the drop-down arrow to the bottom right-hand corner of your taskbar, our ribbon does expand and we can start seeing some more of that content. So clicking on this arrow here will help you get a better visual for what this content actually means. So I'm going to close that out. The last thing that we need to do to submit this assignment is to actually submit the assignment. So I'm going to once again go to the Unit 5 page, scroll down to Unit 5 assignment, and I'm going to go to Browse Local Files if it's on my computer, or Browse Cloud Service if I'm using something where I saved it to OneDrive or any of the cloud services that are provided. Mine is on my computer, so I'm going to click on Browse Local Files and go to my desktop, Post University, CIS 110, Unit 5 assignment. And we can see here that it is attached. I can press Submit, and it's going to give me, as your instructor, the link to download it. And it's going to show you a quick preview here of what your assignment actually looks like. We can press OK. If you need to start a new submission, you can come back to the assignment upload area and start a new submission here. And at this point, once again, you will receive an email to your student account letting you know that your assignment was successfully submitted. So that concludes the Unit 5 assignment. I know it looks like a lot of steps, and I know that I spent a little bit more time going through this assignment, but I want to make sure that everybody is comfortable with it. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. If you are falling under a different instructor's course, please reach out to your instructor. All of us are here to help you succeed. We all want to make sure that we are guiding you through successfully using this program. Talk to you soon.